My wife was lying in the hospital bed faking her own death, so I lunged right at her and smacked her with 2 massive slaps across the face. I even called up the organ donation department to give her a truly heart-to-heart token of my love. In my past life, I was so overwhelmed with grief that I just drank the water my wife's bestie handed me, and passed out. I was out cold for 3 days and 2 nights. By the time I finally woke up, my wife had already been cremated into ashes. Before I even had a second to grieve, debt collectors came banging on my door. That was when I finally found out that before my wife died, she had somehow racked up tens of millions in debt. Those guys didn't just carve out both my kidneys, they forced me to work 24 hours a day to pay it all off. In just 10 short years, I aged so badly I looked like an 80-year-old man. And right at that moment, my supposedly dead wife drove right past me in a luxury car, cuddling up with her lover. She just laughed and tossed a $100 bill at me, saying it was to thank me for all my hard work. I literally choked on my own breath and met my maker right then and there. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the very day my wife had her heart attack. Looking at her lying right in front of me under that white sheet, I sneered to myself. Since you want to play dead so badly, I'll gladly make it happen. My wife's bestie, Wang Manyun, kept pushing me to drink some water. I snapped back to reality and glared at her. In my past life, I passed out right after downing this exact cup. I was 100% certain that this water was absolutely spiked, all just to make sure I missed Liu Ruyan's cremation. I slammed the cup down, totally ignoring Wang Manyun's protests, stomped over to Liu Ruyan's bed, and ripped off the sheet. Liu Ruyan's cheeks were totally rosy, and her breathing looked completely normal. I was just way too heartbroken and utterly stupid in my past life to even notice it. I raised my hand and slapped Liu Ruyan right across the face as hard as I could. But she didn't even flinch. Looks like she was so terrified of me finding out that she actually pumped herself full of anesthesia. Wang Manyun shrieked, thinking I caught on to Liu Ruyan's little act. Brother-in-law. I know you're upset, but you can't just beat her like that. Ignoring her, I turned back to Liu Ruyan and started viciously pummeling her all over. Seeing Wang Manyun about to blow her own cover, I put on a devastated, heartbroken act and bawled my eyes out. I told you to stop staying up so late. I told you to go get your medical checkups. Why didn't you ever listen to me? You just left me here all alone. What am I supposed to do now? Wang Manyun audibly gulped and just stood there, completely stunned. I couldn't be bothered to entertain her anymore, so I whipped out my phone and made a call. Yeah, I'd like to make an organ donation. She just passed away, so you guys better hurry. Wang Manyun desperately wanted to stop me, but knowing it wasn't her place, she just whipped out her phone and furiously typed out a text. The organ donation team showed up in a matter of minutes. I put on my best gut-wrenching, heartbroken expression. My wife, she was always such a kind soul. With this tragic accident, I just want her legacy to live on. I'm hoping she can save even more people. You are incredibly noble, sir. On behalf of those families, we thank you. May I ask which organs you'd like to donate? I let out a heavy sigh, saying, my wife passed from a sudden heart attack, so I have no idea which organs are even viable anymore. Just slice her open and take a look. Whatever's still good, you can just rip it right out. And hey, if there are no organs left to use, just donate her whole body to a medical school for the students to practice on. No, you can't do that, brother-in-law. Ruyan absolutely never wanted to be an organ donor. She told me this before. We have to respect Ruyan's dying wish. Manyun, I am Ruyan's husband. I get to make this decision. You and Ruyan are just close friends with no blood relation. Who do you think has the final say here? I shouldn't even have to say it. And every single minute you waste blocking this is another minute her organs are deteriorating. You're a doctor yourself. Don't you want to save lives? The organ donation staff chimed in as well. Yeah, Dr. Wang, please step aside. Wang Manyun would never step aside. She was jumping up and down in an absolute panic. I already called her mom. You have to at least let her mom see Ruyan one last time, right? Liu Ruyan's mother, Du Xiaoman, came running in frantically. The hair curlers on her head hadn't even been taken out yet. It looked like she rushed straight from the salon. Seeing Liu Ruyan still intact on the hospital bed, she let out a sigh of relief. She marched right up and slapped me across the face. What good are you? Ruyan must have been cursed to marry you. You brought death upon my daughter, and now you want to cut her wide open? If anyone dares to lay a finger on her today, I'll end your whole family. No donations. We're not doing it. Go ruin someone else's body. The organ due. Nation staff felt disappointed, but they had no choice but to leave. Wang Manyun finally sighed in relief, picking up the white sheet to cover Liu Ruyan. Du Xiaoman sat down on the sofa nearby and pointed at me, cursing loudly again. You greedy, disgusting pig. Your own wife is dead, and instead of mourning and getting her cremated so she can rest in peace, you want to turn her into some cadaver donor? You just want my daughter chopped into pieces. If you want to play the hero, go donate your own organs. Go die right now. I'll make the call and donate every piece of you. I covered my face and let out a heavy sigh. Mom, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I just wanted to. You don't even get to want to. Get the hell out of here right now. I'll take my daughter to the crematorium myself later. I immediately shut my mouth and meekly handed the glass of water that Wang Manyun had brought me earlier to Du Xiaoman. Du Xiaoman didn't suspect a thing, plus, she was stressed and had been yelling non-stop, so her mouth was already dry. She gulped down the water in one breath. Wang Manyun tried to stop her, but it was too late. Less than 2 minutes after drinking it, Du Xiaoman passed out cold. The cold sweat Wang Manyun had just wiped away broke out all over again. She stammered, Brother-in-law, you're not still thinking about donating the organs, are you? I shook my head, laying Du Xiaoman flat on the sofa. Of course not. Mom said no, so naturally, I won't push it anymore. Wang Manyun breathed a sigh of relief. Auntie fainting so suddenly, that can't be good. You should rush her to the ER to get checked. I'll personally handle Ruyan's cremation. Hearing this, I looked at her with a half-smile. You've got it backward. You're the doctor. You should be the one taking care of the patients, while I am Ruyan's husband, so it is completely logical that I arrange her cremation, wouldn't you say? With that said, I called the crematorium right then and there to have them come over immediately. Wang Manyun was pacing around like a cat on a hot tin roof, frantically trying to wake up Du Xiaoman, but no matter how hard she shook him, Du Xiaoman was out cold like a dead log, not moving an inch. It wasn't until the guys from the crematorium started wheeling Liu Ruyan away that Wang Manyun finally lost it. She grabbed my sleeve, her voice trembling and hoarse. Brother-in-law, I think I just saw Ruyan move. I really think we can still save her. Hearing this, I shoved the death certificate right in her face. Man, Yun, you better think real carefully before you speak. If your Ruyan is actually alive right now, do you have any idea what kind of liability your hospital is looking at? And what about you personally? What you are doing is called murder. It is a complete disregard for human life. I don't know if the hospital will get shut down, but you are definitely going to jail. So, I suggest you think real hard about this. Did you really see Ruyan move? Wang Manyun was in a full-blown panic, completely at a loss for words to argue back. I let out a cold laugh, shook off her hand, and walked right out behind the hearse. Wang Manyun let out a desperate cry and scrambled for her phone to make a call. I looked down at Liu Ruyan lying on the stretcher and could not help but chuckle, only to notice her fingers actually twitch a bit. Looks like she realized she was about to be roasted alive. And with the anesthesia wearing off, she was finally starting to wake up. Hey, driver, step on it, will you? My mother-in-law is trying to snatch my wife's body to donate her organs or something, but I just want my wife to leave this world in one piece. The driver replied instantly, You got it, buddy. He slammed his foot on the gas pedal. In my past life, when I ran into Liu Ruyan on the street, a whole 10 years had passed, but her face looked almost exactly the same as it does now, barely a trace of aging. I threw myself in front of her car, desperate to see if it was really her, desperate to know for sure if it was my Liu Ruyan. I wanted to pour my heart out and tell her how much I missed her all those years. Liu Ruyan just squinted at me. It took her a long time to barely recognize me. Then she smiled and said, "Oh, it's you. It's only been 10 years, how do you look older than my grandpa?" Back then, my voice was hoarse. My back was hunched, and I certainly didn't look like a guy in his 50s. I stuttered as I asked her, "Ruyan, aren't you dead? I faked my death just to get rid of you. Ha ha ha." Actually, Liu Ruyan didn't even have to finish her sentence. What was left to understand? If she had just asked for a divorce upfront, there is absolutely no way I would have said no. But with a normal divorce, I would have walked away with half her assets. Plus, she would be branded a cheating piece of trash. But faking her own death? That changed everything. Not only could she dump all her debts onto me, she could also quietly transfer all her assets out. Then she could just snag a new identity, totally free and clear. So she could openly shack up with Boda. I was so furious I couldn't even speak. But Liu Ruyan seemed perfectly happy to keep chatting. She smiled at me and said, "You know, back at the hospital, I could actually hear everything you said. I still haven't forgotten the sound of your crying. I'm seriously curious how a grown man manages to cry sounding like a dying goose." Ha ha ha. It was seriously so hilarious. Ha ha ha. Amidst their mocking laughter, I clutched my chest and collapsed to the ground. But Boda just scoffed, "Oh man, honey, he's not trying to scam us by playing dead, is he? Let's get out of here." Liu Ruyan chimed in, complaining about my bad luck. They drove straight off, not giving a single damn whether I lived or died. My final memory was watching their car disappear into the distance, before everything faded to black. But right now, looking at Liu Ruyan's young and beautiful face, I leaned down against her chest, listening to her steady heartbeat. I finally said everything I never got the chance to say in my past life. "I know you're not dead. You've been cheating on me all this time, and you put on this whole fake death act, just so you could run off and live happily ever after with Boda, leaving me behind to drown in your debt. But I don't hate you. In fact, I've decided to respect your wishes. Since you want to be dead so badly, I'll make sure to get you cremated as quickly as possible. I know you can hear every word I'm saying right now, but I'm just not sure if you can feel pain. I really hope you can, that way, you can experience being burned alive firsthand. After all, you might just be the first person in history to be cremated alive." Liu Ruyan's fingers twitched slightly. She couldn't move, but tears started streaming down her face. I reached out and gently wiped them away. "Don't rush it," I whispered. "You'll have plenty of time to cry once you're inside the incinerator." My phone kept buzzing non-stop. It was Wang Manyun in Du Xiaoman blowing up my phone. But right now, I'm just a poor, grieving husband who just lost his wife. I'm in absolutely no mood to answer calls, which is completely understandable, right? Thanks to our driver going fast and furious, a trip that usually takes half an hour only took 20 minutes. But the crematorium was pretty packed today. For it to be Liu Ruyan's turn, it would take at least another hour. I frowned, tracked down the manager, and instantly switched into character, bursting into tears on command. My wife just passed away from a sudden heart attack. When her mom heard the news, she collapsed and is in the ER right now. I need to rush back to the hospital immediately. Please, I'm begging you, let my wife be cremated first. I can't bear to lose my mother-in-law today too. This was probably the first time the manager had ever seen someone try to cut the line for a cremation. Look, buddy, I know you're in a hurry. But everyone else out there has been waiting forever too. I really can't just let you skip the line. Despite saying that, he suddenly rubbed his fingers together in a very suggestive gesture. I knew exactly what that meant. I immediately whipped out my phone and transferred him 2,000 yuan on the spot. "Please, man, do me this favor. I'm an orphan. My wife and her mom were my only family, and they treated me so well. I really can't afford to lose her mom too." The manager was deeply moved by my sincerity. And just like that, Liu Ruyan successfully skipped the line. In less than 10 minutes, she was wheeled straight into the incinerator. The staff member reached over, just about to press the incinerate button, but I stopped him. I couldn't let an innocent guy become a murderer. Plus, I wanted the satisfaction of getting my revenge with my own two hands. After my desperate pleading, the staff member stepped back and let me press the button myself. But right at that moment, Du Xiaomi and Wang Manyun's frantic voices echoed from the door. Stop! Stop it right now! Don't cremate her! Stop right there! Get my daughter out of there! Brother-in-law, wait! Auntie still has things she needs to say to Ruyan. Get the hell out of the way! I forbid you from cremating my daughter. I'll do it myself. Even at a critical time like this, these two were seriously still trying to keep up their fake death scheme. I fell to my knees, faking absolute heartbreak. Mom, Ruyan is already gone. Just let her rest in peace. I am Ru Yan's husband. I'm not going anywhere. Our screening match drew quite a crowd of onlookers. The staff just stared at each other in total confusion. What kind of cheap soap opera are you all putting on here? A crematorium isn't a place for you to fool around. Saying that, the worker reached out to press the incinerator button. Wang Manyun and Du Xiaomi lunged forward like absolute maniacs to stop him. They pounced like rabid animals, their faces twisted in pure panic. The worker jumped in fright and instinctively dodged to the side. Unable to stop their momentum, Wang Manyun and Du Xiaomi slammed right into the control panel. Bam! A massive wave of roaring flames instantly swallowed Liu Ruyan whole. Two blood-curdling screams rang out. While everyone stared in shock at Wang Manyun and Du Xiaomi, my eyes were glued to the incinerator, right at Liu Ruyan. The anesthesia must have completely worn off for her. I could vaguely see her opening her mouth and reaching out. But what a shame, the commotion outside was way too loud. Absolutely. Nobody noticed what was happening inside. A little over a minute passed. People finally turned back to look at the incinerator. The crematorium workers all started whispering in morbid curiosity. Whoa, that's the first time I've ever seen an arm reach up that high. It looked just like a living person. Thank God it's daytime. If this was the middle of the night, I'd swear it was a zombie. I wiped away my completely fake tears and did my best to hide the massive grin spreading across my face. Finally, I put on my most pitiful act and whimpered. My wife loved her mom more than anything. She must have heard her mom's voice crying out for her just now. She probably just wanted to sit up and take one last look at you. Then, I turned toward the incinerator, wiping my tears. Oh, honey, have a safe journey to the other side. Don't you worry. I promise I'll take great care of our mom. I'll do my absolute best to make sure she joins you real soon. Completely ignoring Du Xiaomi, who was slumped on the floor, Wang Manyun stumbled forward frantically. When she saw what was happening inside the incinerator, she was scared half to death. She started frantically mashing the buttons. Help! Somebody help! Hurry! Turn off the fire! The crematorium worker had never seen a family member go this crazy before, so he quickly pushed Wang Manyun away from the panel. Ma'am, please calm down. Look, we know you're grieving, but the dead can't come back to life. Acting like this will only disturb her spirit. Wang Manyun's face turned deathly pale. She collapsed hard onto the floor. It's over, it's all over. Everything is completely ruined. Du Xiaomi crawled over to my feet on all fours. She grabbed my pant leg and screamed like a banshee, "You absolute bastard! You killed my daughter! Give me back my daughter's life!" I sighed, pulled out the death certificate, and said, "Mom, I know you're devastated, but Ru Yan's death has absolutely nothing to do with me. She died of a sudden heart attack. If you don't believe me, just ask Manyun. She's the one who personally tried to resuscitate Ruyan, and she's the one who personally handed me this death certificate." After saying this, I turned my head to look at Wang Manyun, barely able to hide the smirk creeping up on my face. "Isn't that right, Manyun?" Wang Manyun was completely speechless. If she said Ruyan wasn't dead, how could she explain the death certificate? But if she said Ruyan was dead, Du Xiaoman wouldn't buy it. However, my words finally made Du Xiaoman realize what was going on. "It's you! You killed my daughter. My daughter was obviously still alive. Why the hell is there a death certificate? And now my daughter has been cremated. This is all your fault. Those words were absolutely horrifying. Everyone in the room gasped in shock. The crematorium staff went pale. Oh my god. That's straight up murder. Hearing this, Du Xiaoman's eyes rolled back in her head, and she passed out cold. I reacted instantly, slapping Wang Manyun right across the face. Manyun, what the hell is wrong with you? How could you make such a sick joke? My wife is dead. Why would you spout such nonsense? Wang Manyun was completely stunned by my slap. Hearing this, the staff around us figured Wang Manyun was just making a twisted joke, and went back to their business. Watching Liu Ruyan's cremation finish completely, I put on an extremely furious act and stormed out of the crematorium with her ashes. Before leaving, I made sure to drop one last line for Wang Manyun. You scared mom so bad she passed out. You're taking her to the hospital. It wasn't that I didn't want to stick around for the drama, but I had way more important things to take care of. Back home, I casually dumped Liu Ruyan's urn in a highly visible spot in the living room, then immediately dialed my lawyer to kickstart the process of inheriting her company and assets. In my past life, I was too blinded by grief. By the time I snapped out of it, the company was gone. If I didn't act fast this time, once Du Xiaoman woke up, she'd definitely beat me to it. Lawyer Chen, Ruyan's passing was sudden, but before she died, she mentioned something about family trusts and overseas accounts. I need you to pull every string you have, and within 48 hours, find out the real cash flow dash under her name. On the other end of the line, Chen Jianjiang sounded hesitant. Mr. Lin, based on the public records we have right now, Ms. Liu only has a few properties and that consulting firm that's about to go under. Plus, she's drowning in tens of millions in debt. Exactly, Lawyer Chen. Liu Ruyan was shrewd to the bone. If she was willing to fake her death just to avoid a divorce, it means the assets she's hiding are worth way more than those millions in debt. Dig into it. I'm tripling your commission. A big enough bounty always gets the job done. By the next afternoon, I received a message from Chen. The encrypted email from my lawyer confirmed exactly what I suspected. Liu Ruyan was using that so-called medical consulting company of hers to run a massive money laundering and asset transfer operation. Through Wang Manyun's medical credentials, she bought up a ton of illegal prescription formulas and hid them under several offshore shell companies. But the ultimate irony? I found a hidden safe right inside that rundown, old garage. When I forced open that rusty, squeaky rolling door, a blast of musty air hit me dead in the face. In a corner I never even bothered to check in my past life, I pried open a hidden compartment. No fancy jewelry inside. Just neat, thick stacks of cold hard cash and a few crypto hardware wallets. Tens of millions in debt? Ha! Liu Ruyan, you snake. You really plan to leave me rotting in hell with all your debt, while you take these tens of millions in Bitcoin and run off overseas to playhouse with Jibo Yuan. Oh, you two lovebirds. I did a quick count, and just the raw cash sitting right here adds up to over 2 million. I didn't rush to the bank to deposit it. Instead, I called up a few of Liu Ruyan's biggest loan sharks. When dealing with these bloodthirsty debt collectors, the best strategy isn't to hide. It's to buy them out. I invited the heads of those loan agencies to an exclusive, high-end private club. Gentlemen, Liu Ruyan is ash now. Death certificate is right here. I'm sure you've all heard the news. Listen here, Mr. Lin. Just because she's dead doesn't mean her debts disappear. You're the primary heir. You owe us this money. Hey, I never said I wouldn't pay. Here's 2 million. Just a little show of good faith to cover some of the interest up front. As for the rest of the debt, once I fully take over Liu Ruyan's company, I'll pay you back through a legal equity pledge. But, on one condition. Liu Ruyan's mother, Du Xiaomi, and that guy named Boda, they're probably still hoarding a chunk of Liu Ruyan's hidden cash. Right now, they're spreading wild rumors that I murdered her, also they can steal the inheritance for themselves. If they pull this off, you guys won't see a single dime of that money. So what you're saying, Mr. Lin, is keep them from messing with your asset takeover? Exactly. And while you're at it, let them get a nice, personal taste of what it's like being chased by debt collectors. Since they're so desperate for evidence, I'll just let them drown in a bottomless pit of debt first. Liu Ruyan's company was officially registered as Ruyan Trading. Sounds super classy, right? In reality, it was just a filthy, corrupt shell company. On my very first day taking over, I walked in with 12 massive, heavily built security guards. The finance director, Wang Manyun, who also happens to be Wang Manyun's cousin, clutched her folders, her face completely drained of color. And Mr. Lin, this is completely against company policy, isn't it? Boss Liu just passed away, and you're already making a huge scene trying to fire all of us senior staff? Company policy? You embezzled 380,000 and shredded the incoming invoices. Right, Director Wang? So, do you want to debate company policy with me, or would you rather debate your life choices with the financial fraud unit? I'm giving you exactly 30 minutes. Pull every single email between Liu Ruyan and Boda off your computer, along with every transaction record, and copy them all onto a drive. Get it done, now. Think of this 380,000 as your severance pay. If you screw this up, you'll be going away to keep your cousin company. In less than 20 minutes, I got my hands on absolutely everything I wanted, including Liu Ruyan's evidence of the illegal asset transfers to Boda, along with the digital contracts for the overseas real estate they bought together. These documents were supposed to be Liu Ruyan's leverage to start a brand new life after faking her death. But now, they were the very weapons I'd used to nail them for fraud and embezzlement. The sky was gloomy as I stared at the numbers climbing in my bank account. I didn't feel a damn thing. The real estate under Liu Ruyan's name, the crypto in her cold wallets, plus the total value of the company shares after the merger, had already topped 50 million. And that 10 million in debt? Thanks to my maneuvering, it had morphed into Liu Ruyan's personal fraud debt. Since the debtor is officially dead and her assets were seized, the remaining bad debt from the liquidation got completely dumped on her guarantor, Du Xiaomi. That was my ultimate parting gift to them. Oh, wifey. Thanks a million. Now I've got the cash, the house, the company. From now on, I'm going to live it up. Even better than you did in your past life. I got completely trashed and passed out right on the couch. The next morning, a loud knocking jolted me awake. I rubbed my pounding head and dragged myself to open the door. Outside stood Wang Manyun and Du Xiaomi, along with a guy who looked a few years older than me. Judging by his face, he had to be the guy I saw in my past life, Boda. He looked absolutely devastated and furious. He was holding the hand of a little boy, maybe 6 or 7. And looking at him, the kid looked exactly like Liu Ruyan. Wait, was this her secret love child with him? No wonder she absolutely refused to have kids after we got married. She had already popped out a kid with her old flame. The three of them looked miserable, sporting massive dark circles under their eyes. Behind them stood a few cops. Officer, that's him. He's the one. He cremated my daughter alive. Arrest him right now. Throw him in the incinerator too. Let him see how it feels. I knew this little drama was coming. I just didn't expect the circus to arrive in town this fast. I let out a fake, helpless sigh. Mom, can you please stop making these awful jokes? I pulled out the paperwork. Officer, here is my wife's official death certificate. My mother-in-law just can't process her passing. I think the grief might have broken her mind a bit. This paperwork looks perfectly fine. I sighed heavily and kept going. My wife and I were married for 3 years. We were so deeply in love. When she passed away, I just couldn't bear the thought of her body decaying, so I had her cremated immediately. Is that a crime? Du Stallman clutched her chest, gasping in rage. You're full of shit. My daughter was sick to death of a boring, worthless dog like you. If Boda hadn't been stuck in his marriage back then, there is no way Ruyan married you out of spite. You did this on purpose. You cut the cremation line on purpose just to get your hands on my daughter's inheritance and her company. I talked to the folks at the company yesterday and confirmed it. What else are you gonna deny? I put on a look of total disbelief, my eyes so red they were practically bleeding. Mom, you can scream at me all you want, but what Ruyan and I had was real. If we didn't love each other, Why on earth would she make me the sole heir to her estate? You're saying Ruyan is still alive? Why don't you use your head for a second? Do you really think a massive hospital like that can't tell the difference between a dead person and a living one? Manyun told me herself. She said Ruyan was brain dead and her heart had completely stopped beating. What living person does that sound like to you? Du Xiaomi signaled for Wang Manyun to speak up, but Wang Manyun just kept her head down. Well, it figured. If she confessed right now that the death certificate was faked, she'd be in massive legal trouble. She was better off just playing along with the mistake. The whole room hit a dead end. Gee, Boda tugged at Du Xiaomi's sleeve and she finally shut up. He let out a heavy sigh. Ruyan, she really wasn't dead. I'm Ruyan's boyfriend. Years ago, Ruyan and I broke up over a stupid misunderstanding. She married you out of spite. I got divorced this year and brought my kid to find her. And Ruyan, she realized she was still in love with me too. So, she wanted to fake her own death to get away from you. But we never in a million years thought you'd just go straight ahead and cremate her. But don't blame Ruyan for this. She only did it because she didn't want to break your heart. She was such a kind soul. Now that Ruyan is really gone, all we want is for you to accept this child and let the kid have their rightful inheritance. I took a sip of water, then threw Du Xiaomi's exact tone right back at them. Bullshit. Mom, I know you and Ruyan had a terrible relationship. She didn't leave you a single dime in her will. So you drag in this random kid from who knows where, just to frame Ruyan and steal her inheritance, right? Du Xiaomin was so mad she could have dropped dead, but for the sake of the money, she held it together. Bullshit. Ruyan and I had a great relationship. I know for an absolute fact that this is Ruyan's kid. I didn't miss a beat and whipped out Liu Ruyan's will. Mom, why are you lying to everyone? If you and Ruyan were so close, how come your name isn't anywhere on this will? Why did she leave absolutely everything to me? Du Xiaomin was completely speechless. Boda was still hesitating. After all, he couldn't exactly blurt out that Liu Ruyan only left me her estate, just to dump all her debts on me. I glanced over at the kid standing behind Boda, laughing coldly to myself. So that's why she played the perfect wife for 3 whole years, and then suddenly dropped the act. Turns out her precious first love and their son had come crawling back. But honestly, I wasn't even heartbroken. After all, I've already died once. I kept my face deadpan and said, "You say this kid belongs to Ruyan? Well then, let's see the proof. Show me a legally binding DNA test, or at least a birth certificate." Boda and Du Xiaomin completely froze. They didn't have any damn DNA test. Because the baby was born at home, there's no birth certificate. But the kid is definitely Ruyan's. Officer, do you see what's happening here? They know my wife has already been cremated. So they deliberately brought some random baby to my door to try and steal her inheritance. And now they're making up these crazy lies, saying I burned my wife alive. But their story is completely full of holes. Du Xiaomi stammered anxiously, I can do a DNA test with the baby. That'll prove I'm his grandmother. Wouldn't that prove he's Ruyan's child? The officer shook his head. It doesn't work like that. That would only prove you're related to the child. But it doesn't prove your relationship to Liu Ruyan. And even if it did, it still wouldn't prove that you and your husband only had Ruyan as your only child. I held back a laugh. Honestly, the main reason I insisted on cremating Liu Ruyan so fast was because I was worried about exactly this. I didn't expect to actually hit the jackpot. Du Xiaomi and Boda exchanged a desperate look. Boda gritted his teeth. Who cares whose kid it is? The fact is, Ruyan wasn't really dead. He's the one who burned her alive. He's a murderer. He has no right to inherit Ruyan's money. Boda wasn't wrong about that part. But you'd have to prove I'm a murderer first, buddy. I suddenly turned to Wang Manyun. Manyun, you tell us. Is Ruyan dead or alive? You're a doctor. You have a family. Think very carefully before you answer. You might not remember, but I sure do. When it came time to press the incinerator button, you and Mom were the ones who rushed up to hit it. If Ruyan was actually alive, then you and Mom are the murderers. I took their panicked attempt to stop me that day, and completely twisted it into them hitting the button on purpose. Before Du Xiaomi could even scream bullcrap, Wang Manyun gritted her teeth and cried out, "Ruyan is really dead." I breathed a sigh of relief. But then Boda held up his phone. "I knew you were going to lie, so I brought proof." Boda played a video on his phone. The video showed Boda, Liu Ruyan, Wang Manyun, and Du Xiaomi. The four of them were sitting on the couch, plotting the fake death. Liu Ruyan's voice came through the speaker, just as sickening as it was in my past life. "I'll take some anesthesia when the time comes. You guys find a way to knock my husband out. Then just tell him I've already been cremated. Once this is all over, I'll pay you guys $1 million." However, this recording wasn't the full version. It completely left out the part where they plotted to dump all her debt onto me. Wang Manyun dropped to the floor, totally at a loss for words. I didn't know. Boda seemed to let out a breath of relief. "I wasn't lying to you. You really are the one who murdered Ruyan, so you're the one going to prison. And all of this inheritance should rightfully belong to her mother." I threw on my best terrified expression and stayed perfectly quiet. After milking the emotion for a moment, I looked absolutely heartbroken. "Officer, I need to report a crime. Those three deliberately helped my wife fake her death and kept it from me. Do you know how devastated I was? I genuinely had no idea my wife was dead. Those two knew damn well I was going to donate my wife's organs and have her cremated. But they purposely didn't tell me that she was still alive. They did it on purpose. They deliberately wanted me to cremate my wife, and then show up at my door with a mob to seize her assets. As far as I knew, my wife was dead, so I just followed the standard procedure to have her cremated. Is that a crime? Obviously not. The two of them never expected me to be so articulate. They thought I'd have a total breakdown once I found out, and that they could just lead me by the nose. But hey, I've already died once. I'm definitely not the same naive and foolish guy from my past life. The very moment I woke up, I had already mapped out my every move. I sounded so heartbroken that my voice was hoarse, as I yelled, back then, when I was arranging the organ donation. "Mom, you were right there too. When you refused the donation, why didn't you just tell me the truth? If she just wanted a divorce, why wouldn't I agree to it? It was clearly you guys. You deliberately tricked Ruyan. You made her believe your nonsense and choose to fake her death, just to frame me as the monster who sent his own wife to the incinerator. How could you be so vicious? That's because Ruyan said we had to make it look convincing so you'd believe it. So I had to stop the organ donation, but I didn't dare tell you the truth. Then what about this? On my way to the crematorium, you guys called me. That proves you knew I was going to cremate Ruyan. I was too devastated to pick up the phone at the time, so why didn't you send a text? And besides, when we got to the crematorium, Ruyan clearly hadn't been cremated yet. Why didn't you tell the truth then? Instead, you deliberately hit the incineration button right in front of everyone." Du Xiaomi and Wang Manyun were left completely speechless. But I knew the real reason. It was because they were so arrogantly confident they'd make it in time. They figured that as long as they could distract me at the crematorium for just a minute, their scheme would succeed. After all, high risk, high reward, right? This whole farce dragged on to the end without any real conclusion. It was a classic case of he said, she said, with both sides fiercely sticking to their guns. The police had no choice but to take all of us back to the station for temporary detention pending an investigation. But after investigating for a few days, they found out that I really was just an incredibly clueless husband who had absolutely no idea about Liu Ruyan's affair. I never questioned her about her business trips or social events, and never snooped through her phone. What's more, after interviewing my neighbors, friends, and colleagues, and reviewing the home security footage from before she died, they confirmed that we were basically the picture-perfect, inseparable couple. We literally never had a single argument. And since there was no way the cops could know I had been reborn, judging strictly by the current evidence, why would a devoted husband like me randomly murder his own wife? Meanwhile, the statements from Du Xiaomi, Wang Manyun, and Boda were completely full of holes. They clearly had countless opportunities to tell me the truth. They actually waited until after I had Liu Ruyan cremated to tell me she wasn't dead. Especially Wang Manyun and Du Xiaomi. They watched Liu Ruyan go right into the incinerator, but still kept their mouths shut. They even pressed the button themselves. They claimed it was an accident, but come on, who's gonna buy that? And get this, that whole fake death stunt from the start? That was already crazy enough. Anyway, the investigation wrapped up. I was cleared as nothing but a poor, innocent widower. But those other three? They got locked up for suspected murder. Once they made bail, Du Xiaomi and Boda were pissed. They kept sending thugs to harass me every other day. First, I went to building security. Then the cops, but they just kept clinging to me like leeches. They wouldn't let it go. Finally, I'd had enough. I took Liu Ruyan's inheritance and hired 100 bodyguards. I gave them one simple order: if anyone else comes looking for trouble, spare those two ringleaders, but beat the living crap out of everyone else. I've got the cash to pay for the medical bills anyway. After a few rounds of that, Du Xiaomi and Boda were perfectly fine, but the goons they hired got completely wrecked. They single-handedly funded the local ER for a whole month. Eventually, no matter how much Du Xiaomi and Boda begged, nobody dared to work for them anymore. Those two were absolutely losing their minds in impotent rage. If looks could kill, I'd be dead. But I was having a blast. I lived it up right in front of their faces. Champagne, fine wine, sports cars, and beautiful women. I made up for all the regrets of my past life, and it made Du Xiaomi and Boda grind their teeth in pure jealousy. Then, 3 months later, the verdict dropped. All three were found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. When the cops showed up with the arrest warrant, Du Xiaomi put on an absolute masterclass in throwing a tantrum. She climbed onto the balcony and threatened to jump, screaming that I was the one who murdered my own wife. Called me a monster who'd burn in hell, and accused the cops of being corrupt murderers. A massive crowd started gathering below to watch the drama unfold. Du Xiaomi must have thought she had an audience. She tried to rile them up to take her side, putting on a real tearjerker of a performance. She was bawling her eyes out. That is, until an hour passed, and some guy in the crowd yelled, "Are you gonna jump or what? Stop putting on a show and wasting our time." Du Xiaomi was so pissed she jumped up, but her foot slipped. She fell straight down with a loud thud, and died right on the spot. And Wang Manyun wasn't doing any better. Once the scandal blew up, her husband filed for a divorce immediately. He took custody of their kid and ordered them to cut ties with Wang Manyun, once and for all, told the kid to act like they never had a mother. Before the cops came for her, Wang Manyun had come begging to me multiple times. She pleaded with me to remember our friendship and write her a letter of forgiveness. She said if I just let her off the hook, she'd do anything. She said she couldn't bear to see her family destroyed. But man, when my family was destroyed in my past life, who took pity on me? She dug her own grave. Now she has to lie in it. The very last time, she stood right in front of me and stripped completely naked. I just scoffed, and had my 100 bodyguards toss her out on the street. Later, I heard that Wang Manyun threw a massive fit and tried to off himself in prison a few times. But none of it worked. As for Boda, he was even more hilarious. The guy actually tried to play the family card on me, whining about how the kid is innocent. He said since I loved Liu Ruyan so much, how could I bear to let her flesh and blood lose both parents and become an orphan? He even claimed the kid's a born genius and could help me run the company someday. As for himself, he said he wasn't greedy. As the kid's biological father, all I had to do was toss him a few million for his retirement fund. And he promised he'd never show his face in front of us again. So, I just smiled and told him, I've already contacted the orphanage. The kid won't suffer. But as for you, Ruyan is awfully lonely down there in the underworld. You need to go keep her company. while Boda was throwing a massive fit and cursing his lungs out. I just smiled and walked right out of the police station, making a clean break with the past once and for all. After that was settled, I let my previous 100 bodyguards go and handed them a massive severance package. But among them, there was this one female bodyguard. Not only did she bust her ass and give it her all on the job, but her personality was totally my vibe. On top of being drop-dead gorgeous, I saw true loyalty in her. So, I sold off my old place and used the inheritance Liu Ruyan left me to buy a massive, much nicer mansion in a prime location. That female bodyguard moved in there alone with me. As for Liu Ruyan's ashes, I carry them with me everywhere. Because I believe spirits are watching from up above. I want her to get a front row seat from heaven to see exactly how incredibly happy my life is now. Boss Lin, what's our next move? The smoking hot, sharp-eyed female bodyguard was actually acting a little shy, standing behind me, nervously rubbing her hands together. I just smirked. Obviously, we're gonna answer the nation's call and try for triplets on the first go.